So let's get right to it because we got a lot of things to talk about. Number one, my DNA test came in, so we want to talk about that because a little while back I asked you to do one of those genetic testing things like Brecca asked to get one of those done in your life. So now you did it for me. So now you're going to tell me what's going on with my body. And to be honest with you, I haven't changed very much since I did that because I'm waiting for you to give me the full gusto.
Yeah. So first of all, kudos to Brecca. See, he's been doing this probably just as long as I have. Most importantly, you want to really get to the individual. You want to find out the genetics. You want to understand what the epigenetics, what is genetics and what is epigenetics with respect to functional medicine. So this whole
What does epi stand for, please?
So your predisposition to illnesses are directly related to your SNPs. SNPs are SNPs is single nucleotide polymorphism, and this is actually what's happening when your mother and your father sort of come together to produce the offspring. Their genetics actually comes in, and there's some unfortunate errors that take place in this transcribing of the genomes. So when you have genes from mom, genes from dad, the DNA comes together to produce, let's say, your DNA. And while doing that in that transcription process, there's errors. We call this errors, and these are SNPs. And these SNPs, then your body just sort of says, I'm missing an amino acid here.
I love this.
I'm going to put this other amino acid now. So for all our followers and listeners, if you've ever watched the movie Jurassic Park, Jurassic Kingdom, this is actually, talk about this because, and I love these kinds of movies about science. Obviously, because before I became a doctor, I was a nutritional scientist, and I really analyzed a lot of the data when it came to nutrition and nutritional science, and especially epigenetics. The whole point is that your DNA is new. So, for example, you're not identical to anybody else in your family. Yeah. You're unique. You got a little bit of mom.
That's
you got a little bit of dad.
That's why matching up people who are too close genetically is not good.
Correct.
There needs to be. That's why
diversify.
Purebred dogs don't last as long as mutts, because mutts are forced through this to genetically change and adapt, where the same breed of dog could be cousins, and that's why they come out and don't last as long, is because they're too close genetically. It's like a brother and a sister getting married. You can't have that close. They're gonna mirror each other, and there'll be no improvement in. Right? Is that right?
I mean, listen, first of all, I love
the right way to think about it.
I love the way you bring that entity, because you bring it fully on a whole different side in the spectrum. You're like thinking outside the box, almost like nobody else. And I love that you bring that. So you definitely make some really solid points. Number one. Number two, definitely you want to diversify. The whole point for natural selection is evolution is going to naturally select a characteristic and a trait to further reproduce in offsprings to come. So if you have a genetic disorder for arthritis, if you have a genetic disorder for a detoxification pathway, and for example, I mean, I found something with you, which I think is important. And this was probably the most important thing on the page. And we'll talk about this. So not a lot of people understand what MTHFR is and having that gene. And you actually have that gene for both vitamin B12, folic acid, and vitamin B2. So MTHFR, methyl tetrahydrofolate, it's a gene. It actually helps your body detoxify. If you have this gene, and by the way, 50% of the population have this gene, they don't even know it.
Okay,
you just know it.
If you have this gene, continue. You gotta bang those bangers out. Remember, Matt?
If you have this gene, you cannot detoxify as well as someone else. So here's the deal. What does B12, what is it responsible for, and why is everybody talking about it?
Because so I'm lacking in those three things is what you're saying?
Well, you remember when you came to me, we put you on some B12, what happened? You felt brighter, you felt better, you felt clearer.
That's the red
you
stuff?
Dropped a whole bunch of, that's the red stuff. That's the red stuff. Vitamin B12, I gave you
Lingua.
Now,
I was doing really well when I was on that. Yeah, you're right.
For those people that need B12 and don't have this gene, they'll go see their regular family doctor and they'll say, hey man, your B12 level's low. Let's give you some B12. Not all B12s are the same. Cyanocobalamin is cyanide attached to the cobalamin molecule that actually facilitates and brings it into the cell and facilitates B12 formation. However, you don't have the methylation, meaning that you don't have the proper DNA to convert B12 into its active form. What that means is you can't get it from your food, and you certainly can't get it from a cyanide poisoned needle called cyanocobalamin. You
So
need
what you're saying is I need the
methylcobalamin.
the one under my
The active methylcobalamin is the active form. It costs more. It's not in a lot of vitamins.
Where am I going to get it?
You're going to get it from Dr. Mike.
Outstanding. That's the only place I can get it. I can't get it like over the counter. I can't find it.
You can get it at Nature's Emporium. Thank goodness for places like Nature's Emporium to actually have good quality nutritional supplements, high quality vitamins.
No salesmanship here. No, Mikey, seriously. Let's not talk. Let's just talk. If I want me now today make that change without having to come to you every week to get it. If I want to make that change, I go to Nature's Emporium, I look up this, and I buy what?
You go to your local health food store, your friendly local health food store, and you ask them, I need the active form of vitamin B12. And they'll say, okay, we have 3 types of B12. Which ones would you like? Cyanocobalamin. They don't know what they're talking about. Grab that product, toss it in the trash. Hydroxycobalamin still has to get methylated. It's not the ideal form. You want to get the converted form methylcobalamin. Now,
Okay, perfect. Thank you for saying that. Now you have to see, because we're trying to get more reels out of this stuff, right? And you got to be able to stop once in a while.
okay.
Don't trail on too much. Okay.
What's up? Jess has a
Okay.
question.
Sorry. If you go to the report summary, you can bang off everything here.
I'm on the report.
He's on the report summary.
But what else? What do I have?
So you have diet and heart health, you have mood, you have sensitivities, you have predisposition to caffeine and alcohol, you have specific nutrient needs. So vitamin D, calcium is flagged for Marco, vitamin E. is flagged.
Tell me about the...
Omega-3 fatty acids is flagged too.
Okay, Omega-3 is flagged. Tell me about his epigenetics with respect to diabetes. How's the white sugar and the complex carbs? Does he have the gene for that?
While they're looking that up, the most important thing is that we understand is that I went to Dr. Mike and I said, I want one of these tests like that Dr. Brecka or Gary Brecka says to get, because I want to clearly identify the things that I need to change. I don't want to just make wide sweeping changes. I want to go after the things that I need to change in particular. So I want to know what I have to take. Now I know I have to take this what's it called?
So you got to take methylated forms of B vitamins.
Methylated forms of B vitamins.
So that's B12, and a big one is folic acid as well. So here, let me tell you. I
Okay,
just
so the
talked to
next thing about me is not the B12. I can't process B12 normally.
So you have a methylation problem.
Yeah, okay.
So let me make this very clear. Without folic acid, methyl tetrahydrofolate, which is the methylated form of folic acid now, this is a separate B vitamin. Okay? Without B9, you actually will not detoxify your liver properly. So if I give you an injection,
So I have anger.
If I give you an injection, of folic acid and B12 once a month, you don't have to ever take it, and for the rest of your life, you're going to be fine.
So I'm just gonna come see you once a month to get my shot.
Exactly. And I only use the higher forms and the methylated forms because I anticipate, first of all, most of my patients get this report because this is what I do. But sometimes we don't have this
standard for everybody.
standard.
But did we do it the first time? Did we do it the first time I did it, or you just wanted me to lose weight?
No,
so
what
you
happened?
knew what to do?
What happened is the lab that I was dealing with in sort of Toronto, they went under through COVID, and then we found a different lab.
Now this is
a DNA lab, and then I think they
a good one.
rebranded and whatnot. But anyway,
good lab.
this is the best. These guys are the best.
Good.
So one other thing.
What else can I change besides?
Methyl tetrahydrofolate. I give you an injection of some kind of toxin. You take some kind of vaccine.
Tell me what that is after, and I write it down so I can go get it.
Yeah.
You got
Please.
Let's say you take a vaccine.
I took the vaccines.
Hold on a second. Let's say you take a vaccine and you do not have this vitamin in your body, you will not detox the proper chemicals within that vaccine. Not only you, but Marco, what I just uncovered on this, in this particular test, is not something, first of all, you only have to do this once in your entire life. Second, this gets passed on because now we know that 50% of your kids potentially have this problem.
Oh,
so now you got to start thinking about this is good for your children and your family and you.
Matt,
this is how you bring health. This is how you bring health to the forefront.
See, this is something.
Prevention is key. Prevention is key. Okay, so we're not going to have this talk about whether you should vax or whether you should not. Let's talk about this.
How do I flush whatever the?
How do you detox by toxifying?
Okay, can you tell me the next thing that I need to do? I'm selfish here, please.
Okay, the next one is a carbohydrate metabolism. So you actually have no metabolism of carbohydrates, and you have a high % chance of becoming a diabetic. So when you came to me and you talked to me about the family history, and you did tell me about
My dad was diabetic. Yeah.
Hold on, but what's his condition? Let's talk.
Well, he has Alzheimer's now, which could or could not have been brought on by the diabetes or the depression. He's got both diabetes and depression. Doesn't have diabetes anymore because he lost a lot of weight. So now
let's hold it. So we know that for a fact, once he told me this information, I said, let's do a genetics test. So what we know today is the new type 3 diabetes. And the type 3 diabetes is mental health. And this is Alzheimer's. And so we know this, and it's not your dad's fault. So we know for a fact that you got this gene from your dad, this particular one when it comes to carbohydrates. Your dad can't process carbohydrates. And with anybody out there that has Alzheimer's and any kind of Parkinsonian tremors, we need to bring fats to the brain and to the forefront. There's not too much fats, there's too much carbohydrates, and people like you, Marco, can't break this down, and your insulin gets resistant and it doesn't work, and then everybody just walks around and says you're a diabetic, but in fact you're not, because you have a gene that doesn't allow you to break down and metabolize.
Okay, so what do I do now to improve that or to...
So it states that if you have white and not whole grain, so first of all, you need a low carb diet. And this is going to be you for the rest of your life. And I love when people do this, say, I'm going to go on no carbs, I'm going to kick this, I'm going to try this month.
I hate the idea of a low carb diet. I like pizza and pasta, dude.
It doesn't like you. And this is where the genetics comes in. You like it, but it doesn't like you.
So you're not saying forever none. You're just saying control your intake. Like, let's not have bread every day. Let's not have pasta every day. If you're going to have pasta, have it once a week and make it, or pizza once a week and make it a good dough, make it a good pasta, make it something that's not, filled with toxins and preservatives. You're not saying to me, no more pizza, no more pasta forever for you.
Well, number one. Number two, I want to make this very clear. You're not alone. You're not alone. I don't touch white flour. I don't touch white potatoes. I don't touch white rice.
It's hard with kids, bro.
No, hold on. I got kids too. I'm just telling you about
I know,
how
but
I live. But hold on.
Okay, let me ask a question. Okay?
Mm-hmm. You can ask me the question.
How am I going to make a steak, rice, vegetables, and some sort of pane or some sort of bread thing for my kids? That's our dinner. What am I going to eat if I just a steak?
So and the question comes, it's the white simple starches you need to stay away from. Look, I mean, at the end of the day,
they can have the white starches.
At the end of the day, look, we have your fate. We know what your fate is. It's up to you whether you want it. Look, my family has heart disease. I took a change. I took a U-turn. You can take a U-turn too. You got diabetes in the family, type 1, 2, and 3?
Remember when I was eating lettuce for breakfast?
Well, listen, I mean, I don't want you eating, but look, I want to be realistic. And I think what you're saying is that, and I think for all our listeners out there, we want to be realistic, but the whole grains are going to really be different for you. You just switch to whole grains, and this won't even happen. So not white rice, not white pasta, not white flour, do a nice buckwheat pizza. Shout out to my wife who does it every Sunday. Come over. You're going to love it. You won't even taste the difference. You'll
Buckwheat?
love it.
Yeah?
She makes a buckwheat flour from scratch
should
for
do
my
that on
kids
tape. You should do that
every
on
single Sunday at my house. 100% gluten-free, high protein, high fiber, and definitely 100%
You know what would be
gluten-free.
good? It would be a good idea for Carabio, for my wife's brand, to come up with a pizza dough that is good for you. Like that you could buy. A
My wife's
pizza
got the
dough.
recipe. She made it. She invented it.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
So I'll give you the recipe. No problem.
No tax.
No tax.
Okay. So can we talk more about, okay, so let's move on from that one. Now I know that. Now,
So, but you understand though
low
about
carbs.
you can do brown rice, you can do wild rice,
Mm-hmm.
you can do whole grain pasta, you can do whole grain. You know, I checked you for the gluten allergy. You don't have the gluten allergy.
How about sourdough bread?
That's a whole grain. Now you're talking. Kamut. Kamut's a whole grain.
The
high
problem with
fiber.
me is if you tell me something's okay, I overdo it. So if I just say none of it's good, I just don't eat any of it, and I'm better. What else about me? So this is
You can't
this
metabolize
episode is
fat.
about Marco.
So saturated fats are going to be problematic for you to break down. It's all the ones in red dress. Saturated fats.
I don't really do saturated fats.
Well, there's so you have the heart disease risk now. So we
What's
know-
that? Let's talk about some saturated fats, and I'll tell you if I eat them or not.
Believe it or not, saturated fats are in a lot of processed products, dairy processed products, and red meat consumption.
Well, red meat I have. I don't really do dairy too much, except I do cheese. So there's probably
We got it.
saturated fats in the cheese I eat, right? You're saying that? Even the Italian cheeses?
Okay, whoa. Now we're going to start talking about cheeses. We got to talk about what cheeses are good, what cheeses are bad.
No, we're talking about saturated fats, not talking about cheeses. That would be a whole other episode. Write it down. But another episode. I'm talking about me, saturated fats. I'm not good for saturated fats. So some of the things that contain saturated fats.
Animal byproducts.
Processed
Pork.
cheese. Pork. I eat bacon.
Ooh, did you hear that, folks? How many people that are listening today think that bacon, first of all, is good for you?
Is low in saturated.
Matt, what do you think about bacon? Be honest. Do you eat it?
Yeah, of course.
It's delicious.
Of course. Well, after this episode, you may want to think twice about eating pork. Let me explain. 1, it's the filthiest animal on the planet. 2, it eats its own feces. 3, they're not farmed like they used to be farmed, and they're completely pathogenic. And I've actually seen worms. If you leave a piece of pork unrefrigerated, you watch how fast it grows worms. It's bad for you. It's not very healthy for you. It causes more inflammation. And let's face it, it's not worth the fat. You get a nice grass-fed steak, you know that that animal's only eating grass and it's not eating its own feces, and it's pretty clean. Yeah, I know. He's actually getting turned off about this, but it's true.
No pulled pork.
No.
Pulled beef. Try it. It's great.
Or is there such thing as good pork?
No.
Nowhere in the world.
Well, okay. Whoa. Hold on a second. Hold on. Thank you. Thank you for saying this. Now, if I had to eat pork, the only place in the world that I would ever eat pork is in Parma, and that's in Italy, because they feed it acorns and they treat their pigs like they treat their own children, and they wash them, and they really take care of them, because they're making the best prosciutto in the world, which is just salt and cured. Look, and I'm being honest with you. If I'm going to have it, somebody puts it in front of me and it's like, hey, this is this brand that's from Canada, or this is, because apparently Canada has the best pork. What does that mean? Oh, it has the most leanest and it's the least amount of fat. Flavorful wise, I'm all about, agriculture. How are you raising these animals? Is it biodynamic? Is it in an organic state? And in Parma, they are really taking their pigs serious.
There's got to be other places in the world that
Yeah, you.
have pork that's taken care of in the same fashion.
Your farm.
I could raise a pig.
You raise a pig.
And if I raise a pig that
It'll
way,
run in your house. You'll love it. You have it as a beautiful pet. And then when the time comes,
not to that extent, but
come on.
to the extent that if you had your own, if you found a farmer that raised pigs that way outside,
I agree. There are people. Yes.
let them roam.
I was just
like
for sure.
maybe even this is very ignorant of me, but maybe Mennonite pork, like people growing pigs for themselves, and then they, not what you find in the grocery store, not anything that you, but if you find a farmer that raises their pigs the way they're supposed to, like they would in Parma, and with respect, and also that they don't eat their feces, they don't eat this bullshit and this bullshit, then we're talking, right? Then the pig, as long as it's raised properly and eats the right things, then it's okay. It's just that for the most part, 99% of the pigs are raised schifo, which means disgusting, and that's what you're talking about. 99% of pork is bad. 1% that you find.
Unfortunately, there are organic companies here that actually raise, that really do de Breton, which is one that's in, I think they're in Quebec. Right, Jess?
Yeah.
De Breton?
I believe so, yeah.
That's a good one. Is it available at Nations Emporium, you think?
Yes.
It is?
Yeah, they're 100% organic pork.
Oh, there you go.
They're 100% organic and biodynamic and sustainable. So there are companies out there that do it.
But it's very expensive.
Listen, pork is quite cheap. Look, we got a problem. And the problem is chicken and pigs don't eat the same thing every day. The only animal that you can isolate that eats the same thing every single day is the
Beef.
And you can say it's grass-fed, grass-finished, and that's all the animal's eating. Can you guarantee me, and you find a chicken in Canada that's only fed, that's not fed soy or corn, even if it's organic? The answer is no. This is what we have to try to uncover. Right, Matt? We want that.
We have anything else for me that I shouldn't do besides not eat pork?
Well, we talked about saturated fats.
Saturated fats.
So we talked about how your body cannot process saturated fats, and it'll get back to your liver, and then your liver will get a little bit backed up, and this is where the anger of organ comes into place.
Anything else that I need to maybe bump up?
Lactose intolerance. You have the gene for lactose intolerance.
I'm lactose intolerant.
You have the gene for it.
Yeah, you know my problem with lactose. If I eat too much cheese, I get a pain in my gut, like this, like a gassy pain, and it's like a football game. It's like before a bowl game. The whole house is
trumpets.
Everybody in the whole house is like, "Oh, Daddy had cheese." It's like it's bad, man. I'm telling you. So that means I'm lactose intolerant.
Correct. So one way you can do that is you eat and consume the good cheeses. The good cheeses that you bring in. This is the unpasteurized, aged cheeses that have next to zero amounts of lactose. For example, Parmigiano Reggiano actually has no lactose. Not Padano. Sorry, I'm not a fan. I like it that it's still unpasteurized, but it has lactose in it because it's not aged as long. There's other cheeses that you can get that are unpasteurized and aged, like Gruyere. These types of cheeses. Manchego. Very good sheep's cheeses that have been aged and hard. And then there's the Pecorino that's from one of the biggest blue zones.
Amazing.
Right? Where's one of the biggest blue zones in all of Italy?
Sardinia.
Sardinia. Right?
So, no, that's so. Yeah. Okay,
and then in terms of brain health, it talked about memory. So they looked at brain health on this genetic predisposition, this sort of test that we talked about, and we looked at memory, mood, and cognition. You got a red light on memory, specifically on memory.
Yeah, I'm losing my memory.
So, and
you want to hear something?
Do you
I notice it more because I think about my father and his memory loss, and now I'm like I'll be looking up Matt's name to call him, and I'll be like, what the fuck is his name? And I'm like, I deal with the kid 3, 4, fucking 5 times a day. I mean, a week. And I'm like, I can't remember. And then I'll go, oh, yeah, Matt. So I'm like, oh, my God, I'm losing my memory already. I'm only 47 years old.
So this brings us to our next topic, which is probably our last thing that we'll talk about because we don't want to divulge too much. But memory is big. So you have the gene for memory, and then it tells you what the problem is. In fact, you're predisposed to having low levels of EPA and DHA in the blood. So you need to supplement with EPA and DHA, which is omega-3 fats, specifically from fish. So you eat more fish, which is not a saturated fat. It's a PUFA, polyunsaturated fatty acid. My kids laugh when I say fatty acid because they think They think I have a fatty acid. They say, Dad, get up off your fatty acid. No, kidding. But truth is, you take omega-3s from fish, you take a fish oil supplement, you actually flourish your brain, you prevent things like heart disease, help your memory, and now you'll actually prevent things like Alzheimer's disease.
Do you think smoking weed has anything to do with my memory loss?
Well, oh boy, why did you bring that up?
Well, because I smoke weed. And although I've been cutting back in large amounts.
Jess, can you bring up, I believe he has the inability to remove charred supplement substances in his blood. Okay, so the ability to remove chemicals in smoked or charred meats. So what do you think it's going to do with smoke?
Oh, I have the inability to remove smoke from my blood.
As a talk, so like we talked about, you have an inability to detox through the methylation process. Now you have an inability to remove smoke. You put those together, you're just going to build up toxins in your body. So what can you do? Hold on, let's talk about this. Look, I'm not here to judge and say, hey, you shouldn't smoke weed. But you really need to think about what you're smoking and, in fact, how you're smoking. If you're burning something, maybe burning is not the best opportunity for you.
Mm. Or maybe if I need to get the THC, I can eat it. If I want that THC. I'm
not going to recommend it. But if that's
THC,
what you choose.
But does THC inhibit memory?
It causes, there's been linked causes to specific schizophrenia with habitual use of THC.
You know what? This podcast has really been an eye-opening and wonderful experience for me. Thank you for letting everybody know all my problems.
What's that, Jess?
Okay, we're going to move on because you can tell Matt doesn't want us to talk about this anymore. I can tell he's getting nervous.
Burning what?
Oh no, with the predisposition to smoking, it also increases the already highlighted risk for heart disease.
There you go. Because when you,
okay, we don't got to talk about me anymore. I'm done. We're done. We're done for today talking about me.
Let's talk about, okay, if you do consume fish, because I just told Marco that he needs to consume some more omega-3 fats. So then we think about, we're going to go on this big kick. We're going to consume more omega-3 fatty acids. Guess what? Now we got to say, what kind of fish, that's fish. What kind of fish are we going to consume?
Sorry,
are we just going to go ahead and start eating farmed fish? The answer is no. You really got to be very careful with the types of fish you're consuming. So here's my recommendation. Stay away from farmed fish. It's full of toxins. It's been laced with biochemicals. They feed it synthetic chemicals like soy and colorants to give salmon its particular color. I'm speaking about salmon because it's the #1 farmed species on the planet. You want to get wild. You want to stay away from Atlantic. You want to get 100% wild. Yeah, I like Icelandic, but specifically Alaskan waters is some of the best and still cleanest waters. I mean, the waters they're not clean, Marco. The waters are not clean. There's a lot of toxins in the ocean, more now than ever before. But now let the animal fend for itself. And if it can live a long life, then let that animal be the one that says, okay, this is the one we're going to fish and we're going to eat today. Not the one that I've put chemicals in the water. I've injected it with dyes. I now have fed it soy, so that omega-3 ratio is not going to be high. So wild fish, Alaskan waters, and you're good to go.
Okay. How about Mediterranean?
Again, you want to stay away from farmed. Are you talking about the spiegel?
No, I'm talking about going to Italy and eating fish from Italy.
It's funny. I had a patient that came in. He went to Italy for 2 weeks, came back. His mercury levels were through the roof. He said, what did I do? I said, what did you eat? He goes, I never eat fish. I only eat fish in Italy because I thought it was good. I said, what kind of fish did you eat? And most likely the fish that he was eating was
tuna.
Was probably the ones that were high in mercury. Yeah. Tuna's high in mercury. Swordfish is really high in mercury. A lot of the big fishes you want to really stay away from. And just look, the levels change.
Little fish, sardines.
Those are the best.
I love sardines.
You love sardines? You got to eat more of them, Marco.
Whoa, one of your subjects was farmed fish here. So we hit one of your marks there, Matt.
No, I knew that.
Oh, you knew that?
Matt,
come on. You knew that. Oh, you remembered. I didn't remember. Dun, 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 dun. Sex. Matt wants us to talk about sex. This 2 weeks he wants us to talk about sex.
It's important. It's important for.
Well, it's one of the we can't share this, but one of the things that you told me one time is still one of the stories that I tell to my male friends, because a man needs to have sex.
100%.
So where this is a difficult subject in this is a difficult subject in our household because we have so many kids. And because we have so many kids, and not so many, but 3 kids that are young, there's very little alone time. So very little alone time means that there's, that part of our life gets put on the back burner because of the kids. That's easy. That happens in all relationships. People say that definitely it's from year 1 till year 7. So our youngest is 4 years away from being 7. But generally people say like after year 7, they can kind of take care of themselves. They can kind of stay away and you can kind of like leave them be for a little while. So if you have to get away to it's going to happen more after year 7. That's what I've heard. I don't know if you agree, but the idea is that me in particular, since this is the Marco Tellerico edition of the podcast, sex is probably not happening as much as it should in our household.
But you do some really good things, and most people who follow you see that your date nights are, significant. They're there, and you need them. And how real and how important are they? So I read an article the other day, and it was really interesting, and it talked about husband and wife, and it talked about how a lot of people are not lasting in marriage today, and you can understand why. And the people that stick through it, you look at what was the secrets and I saw a show with a couple that was married for like 70 years. They're both in their 90s. They started talking about what was the secret to their success for being together for 70 years. And then you start reading, some articles and stuff that tell you about how husbands and wives it's a mutualistic relationship 100%. You need to be there for each other. And I think the most important thing is that you need to not forget about each other, because now your kids are there now. But your kids will not, unfortunately, and this is truth, and this is sad for even me and my wife when we thought about this and we talked about it. Our kids are not going to be there forever. And what's going to be left? What's going to be you and your wife left? If you don't foster that relationship, when you guys have no kids, nothing around, what are you guys going to do? Stare at the walls? Mm-hmm. You can't. You have to learn 100%. How to do it. You have to learn how to do it. So what's important is that it's not just you, it's also female hormones that have to be up and running as well. So you got to keep those hormones nice and
so let's
high.
Let's talk about let's go back to the wellness aspect of sex and why those pipes need to be cleaned and and those mechanics need to be, those gears need to be oiled. Okay. Because you need to use those organs, right?
Use it or lose it.
Use it or lose it. That's what.
And that's the actual mnemonic that is real and applies to this particular principle. If a man doesn't use his testicles, literally he's going to lose it. And we're seeing prostate risks being so high, prostate cancer being so high now in society. And I'd hate to think about why. And then you look at women are going through menopause a lot earlier in life, and we hate to think about why. But then you have some women that are, I have some women that come into my office, they're in their 50s, like mid to early 50s, and they're still not in menopause. So what is the difference between a 42-year-old that came into my office last week and then a 52-year-old that came into my office, and they're both starting menopause, but there's a 10-year gap? And then what am I seeing now? I'm seeing 30-year-old men with low testosterone, and the men I'm asking the men, being 28, 30 years old, and I'm saying, how many times do you engage in sexual activity? And the men are telling me once or twice a month. That's not healthy. And then unfortunately, masturbation doesn't count. It does not count. And that's not going to increase a man's testosterone. I got a lot of male patients that come into my office as doctor. I really have to stimulate myself, because if I don't, then, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to have to go elsewhere and try to find sexual relations. And unfortunately, that's sad. That's the sad news. But you have to really build up. So testosterone, in order for it to get regenerated, we need to engage in sexual activity. And that is actually, somebody has to love us back. Like, we can't just, let's just, do a quickie and then we're good to go. We need to build up that testosterone. That's how our muscles build up. And having somebody like you and your wife and me and my wife, somebody who we love, it really brings it to the next level. So unfortunately, there are people out there that don't have that experience and maybe have to look elsewhere. So most importantly, find somebody you're happy with, find somebody you love and you're engaged with,
And date nights.
and really spend the time. And, there's a lot of couples that, maybe there's also people that are divorced and have separate children and have to find that opportune times in which they need to meet their specific or their
And they're not healthy. It's plain and simple. It's the plain and simple. You have to use it or you're gonna lose it. My friend Simon said to me, he said, I unfortunately he's divorced.
There's more and more.
And I said to him, we work together in the payments industry. Shout out to Simon. Never made so much money because of Simon. Anyways, his marriage was a failure, and I asked him, why do you think that it failed? And he said, plain and simple. He said, Marco, you're just starting off your relationship with your wife. This was 5-6 years ago. Because you're just starting off your marriage with your wife. He says, at least twice a month, you need to do date nights. You need to create time for each other. You need to just be without the kids, just you two. Because if you don't do that, that was why our relationship failed. Because it was all about our son, all about our son, all about our son. And then we forgot that we existed. And then we started resenting each other. And then we couldn't get back into the swing of things. And so that was the number one. It was the only advice. And actually, that's the advice I give even to Jen, who's just newly married with Dennis. They're pregnant now. And I'm like, Jen, make sure you guys have date nights. And me and my wife do that a lot, and maybe not as much as we should. So whenever we're having rough patch and whenever we know that we need to go on a date night. She insists, I insist, we go. We like to go to concerts. We like to go watch Feist. Shout out to Feist. You're the best. You could be a genius. Feist. You know Feist?
No.
Feist is amazing. Put that on. Sexy music. Dun, dun, dun. Anyways, you should try it out. Feist.
I love it.
Good concerts. This guy's telling me to move it on. Move it on. Okay, let's see. Cinnamon.
Very good for you specifically because your health genetics.
Oh.
Why? Because it's going to help lower your blood sugar and help insulin resistance and decrease the chance of getting...
What are some other foods that increase testosterone production, lower your blood pressure, lower your blood sugar?
I was?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Name another type of food that does that.
Besides horny goatweed?
Besides horny goatweed.
It's actually legitimately an amazing herb that will stimulate.
It's called horny goatweed?
There's tribulus. It's another herb, tribulus. Arginine is really good. I really love arginine. If I had to say one amino acid, which is not a herb, it's an amino acid. Arginine, there's citrulline, there's amino acids that I think Matt understands these because I think he works out and you take some branched chain amino acids. Do you not, Matt? When you work out? No?
No.
Okay, Matt, we gotta talk. So nitric oxide gets synthesized by arginine. Arginine synthesizes nitric oxide because it's a vasodilator. So what happens is not only are my male patients going to get erections more often, but their musculature is going to get more blood flow, and that blood flow is going to cause more muscle building and hence testosterone production.
Anything else? Any other type of product or?
Well, Marco, we did some research on black truffles. Thanks to Truffle Kings. Actually, I'm going to wear my Truffle King T-shirt next week, nice and tight. And I think it's going to.
No, truffles have. I've been garnering a large reaction when I tell people about the boosting of the truffles. Actually, we went to the ICCO show and I put up that sign right over there and see it says boost testosterone, and then over there beside it says "You're welcome, ladies." I wrote it with a Sharpie, "You're welcome, ladies." Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness! If you wouldn't see the reaction, people going by, shooting that, taking pictures of it. I talked to a fertility doctor and I told him about that, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that does the." And he said, he started getting red. A fertility doctor started getting red.
Excited.
Call his wife over, talked about it. It garners such a positive reaction when you talk about testosterone, the raising of testosterone.
Well, what happens when we don't have testosterone, Marco? We don't feel good. We don't feel well. Similar to a woman when she doesn't have estrogen, she doesn't have progesterone. it's like you put down, but everybody needs testosterone. Believe it or not, even women need testosterone, especially for libido. But the men need it just a little bit more.
Yeah. So I think mass consumption of Truffle King's Black Crema would be the way to go. So we talked about that. Matt wants to talk about microwave popcorn. I mean, when he wants to talk about microwave popcorn, it's and plastic cups and what's in the Chipotle bowls. And I think at the end of the day, it's all this packaging is really what you want to talk about. Is the packaging, and the inside of the packaging always has this layer of plastic, and the idea that we consume off of those things, even though we know there's microplastics and things seeping into our food, and while it's sitting inside those containers, we're still oblivious to this and we still eat those things. Ever since I met you and been talking to you, I'm much more cognizant of eating things from packaging.
Thank you.
I want to eat whole foods and things that I can actually wash and then cut and then eat, rather than things that are coming prepackaged and predestined, I call them.
That's great.
But again,
It's good to hear.
it's the battle between having children and being efficient and being, making it easy on yourself a little bit, and then having these. You really could. My wife could sit at home and create all the meals all day long and do all these things, but then she won't be able to pay attention to her job. She won't be able to pay attention to the other things that she needs to do in order to organize her life and her house, and her other initiatives and the things that she's doing. So it's a battle between eating properly and eating efficiently, and that's always the battle. So
In every household.
in every household. So yes, you're the ultra right when it comes to eating whole, and then there's the left, which is, and then I don't mean in that political spectrum. I just mean opposite.
Just there's two sides.
There's two sides to that spectrum.
But we wouldn't do it if we didn't have a significant other that was on our team. And I'll tell you that right now. You say it all the time. I'm going to say it too. There's no way I'd be able to eat. Now, I quarterback a lot. I head coach a lot of what goes into the meals. And I really just continue to do a lot of coaching in my home. And shout out to my wife, who actually deals with me every day, because I'm able to tell her, say, hey, listen, not that, not this, not that. Now she's got it down to a science, and she really is a really good shopper. When she goes to Nature's Emporium, it's really efficient. And she's pretty much there for 35, 40 minutes, and she knows exactly what she has to get, because, again,
that's better for economics too.
It's better than you know what's good. But, I mean, if we're going to talk, first of all, I mean, Matt, I like that you brought this to the table, because if you're consuming popcorn in a microwave, first of all, it better be organic. Second of all, it has some sort of canola, sunflower, seed oil, so it's going to be 100% pro-inflammatory. Do me a big favor, spend $19.99. Get an air popcorn. Just get an air popcorn maker. Get the 100% organic kernels. Shout out for Eden Organics, which is one of the only companies that actually has the most isolated strain of corn that is still non-hybridized, non-genetically modified.
Organic?
Yep.
Eden Organics.
Organics. They're in the U.S. and they've kept the original corn strain unaltered for the last 30 years. They don't spray.
Very good.
They don't spray. They haven't genetically modified it. Anyway, you buy their corn, their hard kernels. You put it in the air popcorn, and then you want butter on it. Get some grass-fed butter, melt it up on top.
Sounds delicious,
Put some
actually.
cracked Himalayan sea salt,
Doesn't it sound delicious?
And
even some truffle salt. My truffle salt.
and then you can put some nice truffle salt.
Good for the
Make it taste really good.
for the mutts.
Yes.
My son loves truffle chips. I know you don't think he should have chips, but he loves truffle chips. Anyways, we're close to thing. I think we will. Well, the last thing I wanted to talk about, because if this has been on the list, is taming AFib, taming the beast, AFib, because I think it's a big problem for a lot of people. And
A lot of people know that's going on now, because before people didn't know what was going on.
well,
Majority of people.
for the layman who doesn't even know what it is, please.
So for sure, you're going to have a couple things with AFib. So AFib is termed atrial fibrillation. It's basically when your heart stops and starts, and you basically need a crash cart to reset your heart again. Some people, I had a patient last week came into my office. He said, happened to me 10 years ago. I went to the hospital. My heart rate was at 190 and then it went down to like, 40. And then like basically it stopped for a duration of time. They put him on a crash cart, reshocked his heart, and he hasn't had an issue since for 10 years. But there's also some people that need to take medication. Now, our body is an electrical system. Our brain, our neurological system, our entire being, this whole human body that we have is 100% electrical. That's our heart, our neurons, our brain. The fact that we can lift our limbs and not is all electrical impulses. So our heart is a reflection of such. So when we talk about heart healthy things, like for example, DHA, high DHA consumption, docosahexaenoic acid, which is from fish, specifically is highly concentrated, 40% in the heart, 60% in the brain and the eyes. You want to make sure that that actually could reverse and prevent afibrillation. It's a lot to do with how much anti-inflammatory omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids are in your bloodstream, and it can actually protect your heart. So take a fish oil.
That's the result. That's the end of this week's podcast. Dr. Mike, thank you again for exposing my problems to the entire world. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for it's you that we have to thank.
Just kidding.
For sharing.
I'm actually I'm glad we did this. What's going to happen now is it's going to permeate into my head finally that I have to make some of these changes. I'm going to come and see you every week to get my Bs.
Well, we can do it every week for 4 weeks and then once a month.
Yeah. So I want to get
and you'll see the difference.
Yeah.
You'll feel huge.
So let's take a picture of Marco today, because this picture is going to change now based on everything that this gentleman said. If I don't do it because I've thought of it internally, now I'm putting it out into the world, into the universe. This has to happen. That's my visualization board. Mike, you are my visualization board and your visualization board. Thank you very much for tuning in, for listening. Please tell your friends and subscribe. I think at some point we're going to be on all the channels. So tune in every Wednesday to the Dr. Mike Life Caddy podcast, and be well.
And stay tuned for some more tips, because we'll talk about healthy heart eating sort of foods that actually will help your heart, and things like omega-3 fats. And then one thing, because you mentioned AFib, Crataegus, which is hawthorn berry will actually, if you have a high heart rate, it'll bring it down. If you have a low heart rate,
hawthorn berry.
Yes.
Let's put that on the list for next week. You can get that at Nature's Emporium.